On July 30, 2026, a city of 84,000 people woke up to something it had never seen before. By noon, between 35,000 and 60,000 people had crossed into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta from Morocco. That's 70% of the city's entire population arriving in a single day. They came by sea, on inner tubes, on makeshift rafts. Some swam. Some climbed the rocky breakwater. The Spanish civil guard officers stationed at the border had no choice but to step aside and let the human tide pass. And here's where it gets complicated. Just one day earlier, Morocco's King Mohammed VI had done something that would spark a global conspiracy theory. Every year on Throne Day, July 30th, the King of Morocco traditionally grants royal pardons. It's a ceremonial act of clemency rooted in Islamic tradition and Moroccan law. This year, the Ministry of Justice announced that 1,788 people received some form of clemency. But here's what most headlines didn't tell you. Of the 1,679 inmates who benefited, only 9 received a full pardon for the remainder of their sentence. The vast majority, 1,668 people, got a sentence reduction. They were not released. They stayed in prison. Individuals convicted of violent crimes or national security offenses are generally excluded from mass clemency. This is standard practice, not a one-time exception. Within hours of the Ceuta surge, social media exploded with a specific claim that Morocco had deliberately released thousands of criminals and sent them to flood Spain. The narrative was simple, emotionally charged, and perfectly designed for the algorithm. It spread across X, TikTok, and WhatsApp at lightning speed. But here's the problem. Royal pardons don't work that fast. The legal process requires approvals, documentation, and administrative procedures. Even if every single pardoned inmate had been released simultaneously, which they weren't, there's no way thousands could have been processed and transported to the border within hours. Multiple fact-checking organizations reviewed the available evidence and found no support for the claim. The conspiracy theory was just that, a theory. If it wasn't a coordinated operation, what caused 60,000 people to suddenly rush the border? The answer starts with a court ruling. Earlier in July 2026, Spain's Supreme Court ruled that migrants intercepted after entering Ceuta by sea cannot automatically be subjected to summary returns without formal administrative procedures. In plain English, if you make it to shore, you get a hearing before deportation. Human smuggling networks seized on this ruling immediately. They spread misleading messages on TikTok and WhatsApp, telling potential migrants that swimming into Ceuta was now a guaranteed path into Europe. The result was a rush from Morocco's northern coast involving young men, families, and unaccompanied minors, all hoping to reach Spanish territory before the rules changed again. Among the thousands who crossed was a 12-year-old boy named Hamza Slimane. He arrived on Tarajal Beach, shivering from the cold, and immediately called his father, who had no idea his son had left. Hadia, 16, emerged from the water still wearing her earrings and gold chain, mascara running down her face. She spent 3 hours paddling on an inner tube. She told her mother she was just going out for a walk at night with a friend. She plays soccer and wants to keep doing so in Spain. Now she's looking for a phone to tell her mother she's not coming home for dinner tonight, or ever. Not everyone made it. At least 18 bodies were recovered from the sea on the first day. The AP later reported at least 57 total deaths. The darker side of this story is written in the lives that didn't reach shore. The Ceuta crisis didn't just affect Spain. It sent shockwaves through the entire European Union. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni threatened to suspend the Schengen travel agreement with Spain, a dramatic move that would effectively close the border between 2 EU member states. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, who has pursued a more immigration-friendly policy, was caught between a humanitarian crisis and a political firestorm. He traveled to Ceuta the next day. The crisis reignited the immigration debate across Europe, with far-right parties in France, Germany, and the Netherlands calling for immediate border closures. By Friday, July 31st, just one day after the surge, tens of thousands of migrants voluntarily returned to Morocco. The Spanish government confirmed that most of those who crossed had gone back. But the damage was done. The crisis exposed a fundamental vulnerability in Europe's border architecture. A single court ruling, amplified by social media and smuggling networks, can trigger a mass migration event involving tens of thousands of people in a matter of hours. The evidence points to three converging factors: a legal change in Spain, misinformation spread by smuggling networks, and the grinding economic pressures that drive people to risk their lives on inner tubes in the middle of the night. The conspiracy theory about released prisoners was a distraction, a simple story that explained a complex reality. But the real story is harder to tell, and far more uncomfortable for everyone involved. If this video gave you a clearer picture of what happened, consider subscribing. I make deep dive explainers on the stories that shape our world, every week. Drop a comment: do you think Europe's immigration policies need to change? I read every response.